You've severally argued that without a single candidate in 2027, defeating President Bola Ahmed Tinubu electorally at the polls is going to be Herculean, if not totally impossible. Expatiate on this. What do you mean exactly?
Let me say very importantly, the lesson from Osun, the lesson from the Osun elections are very manifold. Very unfortunately, so many people emotively and emotionally are running to the town to say that the APC is defeatable. But the first corollary, which is very important, is the fact that Adeleke is an incumbent, and so is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And so you start from the known to the unknown.
So you actually think the incumbency factor played a key role in the Osun election?
Far more formidable in this issue, yes, because the people are saying that, and there's this cliche that is universal, the devil you know is better than the angel you don't know. Now, don't forget also that, and this will hurt the obedience deeply, that the same way Buhari told us he will fight corruption, the same way Buhari gave us an impression of a Spartan manager of resources, which was the reason in 2013, 2014, his campaign developed life. And so many people felt if we don't have a Buhari, Nigeria will be doomed. It's the same mantra. I will save money, I will fight corruption. And we didn't demand of President Muhammad Buhari, when he was a candidate, a clear-cut manifesto. It is that same mistake that Nigerians are running into. And that's why I'm saying, because I supported Buhari in 2014, I was the DG of Change Ambassadors of Nigeria. I won't lead Nigeria through that same route again. Nigerians wanted a Spartan president, a manager of resources, a man who hated corruption, the same way we're presenting Peter Obi. I want something deeper. And that's what I'm telling my brothers and sisters. Let's make the Obi campaign deeper than those issues because Buhari is one of the greatest problems that even the APC is saying, oh, he didn't manage our economy well, we're trying to repair it. Now, fundamentally, the Ekiti scenario, people talking about the people's power.
Osun scenario.
In the Osun scenario, people are talking about people's power, but they have forgotten that Adeleke is an incumbent. They're talking about his having served the people. They also forget that the people know him already. Now, if you want to give them an alternative, there must be a formidable alternative. And I'm speaking deeply here. The APC and the many governors who got into Osun was not a seemingly formidable alternative. They wanted an alternative from within. And I'm speaking deeply here. If we want a 2027 that offers a new deal, a new tendency, a new hope, and a new day, then the opposition, like I've always said, must coalesce. We need a formidable opposition that can take out the seeming failure that we have today. And the way to do that is, and I thank God for what the G100 is doing, engaging with the opposition factors and individuals to see if they can truly coalesce and give us a single candidate. Because the Osun story has been twisted, if you like, by the opposition, is that, the people will decide what happens in 2027. But they are almost ignorant of the fact that long before the Osun election, Adeleke had said that whilst running for governor under Accord, his choice of presidential candidate and ticket is Tinubu. He hasn't pretended an ounce about it. So on the one hand, he has said to the nation and the Osun people that he will support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And so what that tells you is the fact that the man that you're saying is supported by the people hasn't pretended about his love for Tinubu. I think the opposition must learn to think clearly.
Let me put it right there, because in the group where I belong, this conversation about this double...
And in thanking the people, he boldly reiterated that position,
exactly.
that he's grateful to Mr. President for allowing the processes of democracy, but his commitment to supporting the president come 2027 is ironclad.
Okay, but you see, that promise means next to nothing. Some other narrative. You know why? Number one, Adeleke is making that promise, number one, for safety purposes. Don't forget, the federal government is still withholding the local government funds that belongs to Osun State. And that is huge. How Adeleke has been able to sustain the local government hitherto remains a mystery. But guess what? The space for litigation is still open. And you and I know, Prof, that until the Supreme Court pronounces on this election outcome, it's not over yet. Adeleke, as a wise man, realizes that he needs to flatter, placate the president. Because the hawks within the APC may go tell the president, see, Mr. President, you've congratulated this guy, which is okay, but we need to take Osun by force or by hook or crook. Don't you think that is what Adeleke is playing?
No, let me shock you.
Yes.
The windows for litigation continues even until after the next presidential election. I hope you're aware. Our law hasn't tightened
what I mean is that if the APC goes to court, what I mean is if the APC goes to court, and the Supreme Court eventually says he won, that's the end for that.
Let's follow the issues now.
Yes.
The APC has clearly said, it doesn't matter to us whether Mr. President has congratulated.
Yeah.
We're looking at the issues
exactly.
and we'll decide whether to go to court. Now, what is important here is to look at the issues, albeit dispassionately. Adeleke has never hidden his love for the president. And don't forget that in the build-up to this election, he went with his elder brother to see Mr. President.
Yeah.
And they reached certain understandings. My friend and brother, Festus Kayama, was open enough to say, Adeleke, now that you have won, agreement should be agreement. Now, whether we like it or not, is, you see, don't forget also that when the EFCC froze the account of the state, the president ordered for their account to be defrozen. Now, don't also forget that 2 days before the election, the president gave instructions to the Inspector General of Police and the INEC to be dispassionate and allow for free, fair, and credible election. I think that beyond a motive and emotional assessment of the Osun scenario, the point is, have you wondered, for those 3 hours that the IRF went quiet, what may have been the back-end discussions? Have you wondered why Adeleke comes out and immediately reiterates his commitment to supporting Mr. President in 2027? And have you wondered why the police, as it were, on election day were much more dispassionate than they were in the build-up to the campaigns? These are all conjectures. But what is important for me going into 2027 is a call to the opposition not to be deceived. I think that Mr. President is playing the role of a smart politician here. One more state, albeit surreptitiously, in his kitty. If the opposition rises to that understanding, then they will begin to re-strategize. And my advice here is that the APC is defeatable only through a formidable opposition. If the candidates as they stand today go to the polls in 2027, it will be clearly coronating the Bola Ahmed Tinubu return to Aso Rock in 2027. And what must they do, if you ask me? I think at the time, and I'm going to stir the honest nest, the seeming disapproval of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu presidency, seeming disapproval in the north, the candidate who can best harvest that seeming disapproval is candidate citizen Atiku-Abubakar. And the north has the largest voter demography. That's point one. Number two, it is not too late in the day, I believe, for substitution of candidates. And I think that what the group of 100 should be doing is engaging with all the candidates on the opposition to bury individual ambition, egos, and aids, and think, like the name of my movement suggests, put country first. You ask me, can citizen Peter Obi win standing alone with Kwankwaso? And the answer is a capital letter no.
They can't.
They can't.
Really?
I'll give you 4 quick reasons. If it were in 2023, I can say yes. As we stand today, Kano, the strongest base of Rabiu Kwankwaso, is divided. I don't even think, if we want to be dispassionate and truthful, that Kwankwaso and his Kwankwasia movement can win Kano. The man who was the linchpin of their campaign, who was a candidate of a party that Kwankwaso ran with in 2023, is now in the APC. The former national chairman, the incumbent governor, and the former national chairman of the APC is in Kano. I think the speaker of the National Assembly or so, is it Kaduna?
It's Kaduna, actually.
Okay. But you know that he's in the Northwest. Now, the tendencies are clearly very broad. Kano was united under Kwankwaso in 2023. Kano is no longer united under one tendency is 2027. These are fundamental issues. So for those who blow up the Kwankwasia movement and the phenomenon, equating it to what happened in 2023, I think they are being smart by half. That's one. Number 2, the preponderant sentiments of the North, across the lines of religion, across the lines of ethnicity and the likes, is still a very formidable phenomenon. And then there's this third leg, which is that the South has produced Southern presidents since 1999. They spend more time in power. With Tinubu now, it's about almost 20 years or so. And then the North, only Buhari, and about 18 and 10. Now, if you look at those realities and the sentiments in the North, you will understand that to win the presidency, to defeat Tinubu, you must galvanize a whole lot of these. And looking at it dispassionately, I've told people, and you remember that I've said that I'm not an Atiku campaigner, but the ticket that can beat Bola Ahmed Tinubu come January 2027 is an Atiku-Obi ticket. Atiku at the top of the ticket and Peter Obi as a vice presidential candidate. People will call me names, but if we truly love country and if we truly want to defeat Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027, it is a ticket that appeals across the country. And some will say, we're not talking about a student union presidency. We're talking about a national contestation, a presidential election. I'd ask, beyond even the Kano that has become very contentious, where else in 2023 did Kwankwaso win? And going forward, I do sincerely think that, it was Sir Walter Scott who said, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Oftentimes, there are a lot of people who are goading and nudging Peter Obi to say no. Because there's an obedient waves, truly so. It worked effectively in 2023. It is clearly less potent than it was in 2023, but they still believe that with Peter Obi standing alone, they are likely to win House of Rep seats. They are likely to win senatorial seats. So they continue to goad him on and tell him, you can win without Atiku. But I tell you, just like the lesson we must learn from Osun, Adeleke was an incumbent. And so is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu going to be an incumbent in 2027. And the phenomenon is all bit different because you already have 31 governors from the APC, and they're going to be involved in the 2027 contestation. You have an Adeleke who is not in the APC who's saying, I will support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You have a governor of Anambra State who is not in the APC who says he will support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And off record, the tales in the market says that the governor of Abia State has emotional attachment and sympathy to Tinubu ticket. So whether you like it or not, you have about 33 governors who sympathize with the Tinubu ticket. So if you must defeat that behemoth, you must have a coalition that is strong enough to appeal across board.
You said a lot that we need to carefully unpack. But let's start from the beginning. Osun election that you referenced had about 18 political parties on the ballot. At the end of the day, only 3 got, in fact, only 2 got any significant votes. 511,000 votes for the winner, Accord Party, the incumbent governor, Adeleke. 444,000 votes for the closest challenger, Oyebamiji of the APC. The distance, in fact, I don't know if there's any other word, the farthest, third was ADC.
17,000.
That got 17,000. So, I mean, remove 17,000 from 444. The third guy who got 444 can actually give ADC the guy the 44,000 on top of his 400 and still. So what am I saying? Does this not nullify your argument of coalition? Because Ademola Adeleke still won, even with 18 political parties. I mean, APM, ZLP, AC, ADP, and all of those. Ademola Adeleke still won handily. Respond to that before I take on.
It opens the frontiers of my argument because the Adeleke ticket is the incumbent ticket.
If all the remaining, apart from the first 3, if the remaining 15 parties had joined together, even with ADC,
it wouldn't have been joining. It would have been from the start. You wouldn't have had those tickets. The tickets would have coalesced from the beginning, and then they would have campaigned along with the other ticket. Now, so what we're saying is, if early enough we're able to have a coalition of sorts, where in the build-up to 2027 general election, it becomes a 2-horse race, it becomes very difficult for the incumbent to return.
Okay, great. Second issue that you raised, and which is very deeply, touching, and is about to grate nerves, The horse already bolted from the stable. How do I mean? You have hard lines now. Peter Obi is the candidate of the NDC. He's brought Kwankwaso to be his running mate. Atiku ADC, he's brought Rotimi Amechi. My brother, we started talking about the obedience. How do you tell Peter Obi now to step down and pitch his tent with Atiku? How do you even tell a Rotimi Amechi to step down? Can you square this circle for me, please?
Let me tell you, for nation, if we truly, truly love our country, if we truly want the administration that everyone seems to be saying is not doing well to be voted out, there must be huge sacrifices. I'll give you an instance. Why did Gandhi become the Prime Minister of India at independence? He looked at Nehru and he said, oh, younger, stronger, okay, he can do something. Gave up his ambition for Nehru, understanding the urgency of that moment. Now, clearly, in the build-up to 2027, there are fundamental issues that we cannot overlook. Nigeria is torn along ethnic and religious lines. We can't overlook that reality. For those who are out there saying, oh, it's going to be almost impossible to get people to give up their ambition, I'm telling you that it is easier to give up individual ambitions and defeat Tinubu than to insist, except nobody's telling them the truth. And I'll give you practical instances. this is without fear of querulous critics or whatever names I'm called. Don't forget that I'm not an Atiku fan. But he will harvest the votes in the north, particularly now that there's a whole lot of disenchantment due the Tinubu ticket in the north. Now, down south, you have several candidates. They will divide the votes. So the phenomenon that plays out is that Tinubu will have his traditional voters, Atiku will have his traditional voters, Peter Obi will perhaps have his traditional voters, but if you put them together, divided, Tinubu will be coronated in 2027. Now, how do you stop if they truly mean well, if they truly want to get the opposition in power, and if they truly, but for me, the first line is not just getting the opposition in power. My first line of thought for me is a watertight manifesto that prophesies a new day, a new deal, and a new tendency. A watertight manifesto that shows me the way out of a morass. A watertight manifesto that tells me that there can be indeed a reset for our country. And then the next in line is who's winnable, who can win it. Atiku is winnable. Atiku can defeat Bola Ahmed Tinubu if he works with Peter Obi. A Peter Obi can defeat Bola Ahmed Tinubu if he works with an Atiku Abubakar. That's settled. But how do we get that ticket to work? I have said before that I have a problem with the age of Atiku Abubakar, and I still maintain. But now, if you have an Atiku and a Peter Obi, which of course creates a balance, then I perhaps will be compelled by my passion and commitment to country to support that ticket. But save and accept that understanding exists. People can continue to call me names because I will not watch the opposition go to a battle in 2027 without a winnable strategy. And that's why I'm saying to people who are dancing around the Osun scenario to dispassionately study and put the cards right. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as president, is a smart political strategist. You can't take it away from him. Either by hook or crook, by subterfuge or by conviction, he's been able to raise the bar of, he became president with 22 APC governors. Today they are 31. Whatever he did about it, they are all left for conjectures. But the fact is that there are 31 governors and counting. And in the build-up to 2027, Osun is not a minus for Tinubu, but a plus, if we want to be frank and truthful. Because Tinubu can boldly say, I did not interfere. I allowed free, fair, and credible election in Osun State because I'm a statesman. He can also boldly say that I asked the police to hands off. He can boldly say that I allowed INEC to be independent. And he can also say that the Osun people, and indeed the governor, owes him a payback in 2027. And these are valid positions. I'm being very strategic here. Now, you cannot wish those valid positions away with a wave of the hand. That's why I think that the time has come for the opposition to think fundamentally out of the box, and people should begin to sacrifice their ambition, their needs and ego for the collective good. If we all agree, let's assume that we have all settled at a point where we'll say that the problem with Nigeria today is Bola Ahmed Tinubu and we have to vote him out, then people must be largely interested in making sacrifice for that to work. And the ticket that can take out the Bola Ahmed Tinubu presidency is an Atiku-Obi ticket.
Let me ask the question that is on the minds of our viewers, because they've been listening to us now for about 20, 30 minutes, and they are asking, I'm sure they're itching, they wish they could come into the screen and ask.
And talk to me.
And talk to you. So let me ask on their behalf, how much did former VP Atiku Abubakar pay you to root for him to be the candidate, the sole candidate that everybody else will coalesce around? How much did they pay you?
Ironically, those who have been talking to me from his camp know that I'm not an Atiku fan at all. And I haven't spoken with him on these issues. I have chosen to put country first. I know that the ticket that can defeat Bola Ahmed Tinubu, like that ticket did in 2019 against Buhari, is the Atiku-Obi ticket. And I know that my challenge with the Atiku ticket is age. If you bring Peter Obi to that ticket, it balances that equation. And so it brings vibrancy and experience to the table. And if they go to the polls in 2027 against Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the chances that they will defeat Bola Ahmed Tinubu landslide, hands down, is very, very high. And that's what it is for me. It is not about individual, because all my interviews about this lately has been no to an Atiku ticket. But with what happened in Osun and the need for a coalition of sorts to defeat an incumbent, it becomes imperative that Bola Ahmed Tinubu be defeated through a ticket that is watertight.